To trope or not to trope? That is the question. And whether you choose to behold its merits, align its purpose, or disavow its petulance and codify its moroseness, one will be drawn for all time. Conversations will be had, and its sacred keeper, the one AF Stewart, may reside over this procedure, but make no mistake, it is you, the Horde, playing judge, jury, and executioner, and while civil tongues will prevail, the question remains, even if sullen by blood, is it time to answer the call to trope or not to trope?
Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Trope or Not to Trope. And tonight we are debating instant fighting skills. And I am going to have to defend the undefendable. And Lily gets the lovely job of trashing this horrible trope. But okay, so before we start, I'm going to ask everybody over on Facebook to send a star to let the hosts and producers, yeah, here we go, we'll put this up. Let the hosts and producers know how much you appreciate what they do here at Go Indie Now. Every time you contribute, you get entered into our season-ending gift card. One lucky winner will receive a $25 Amazon gift card, a $25 Bandcamp gift card to get the best in indie music, or a $25 drive-through RPG gift card to get the best in indie gaming, a Go Indie Now t-shirt or mug, and a selection of ebooks from some of our guests and hosts at Go Indie Now. So send those stars, people, because that sounds like a great prize pack. Okay, so now with that business over, we get to the debating part, and our guest tonight is Lily Luchesi, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, so take it away.
Hi, everyone. If you don't know me already, I am a USA Today bestselling author of urban fantasy and paranormal mysteries. I also write dark romance and romantic suspense as S.L. Sinclair, contemporary romance as Samantha Calcott, and I am a professional editor and formatter at Partners in Crime Book Services. Hi.
Yes, and she's a very good editor. She's she is my editor. And she's done several of my books, and she's done a great job. So anyway, we will start with the elephant in the room, as you will. The main reason why people use this trope, at least in my opinion, is it's a shortcut. Skips all the boring bits. You get to assume the characters got skills or had skills or just a little hand waving and it's all done. So it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy shortcut, and it's attractive, I think, in that way. So how would you respond to that?
I think that there may be overall, everything that you listed specifically there, it is, I don't want to say it's lazy because some people might be scared. Maybe they don't know a lot about fighting. And of course, you have magical fighting, and then you have monster fighting, and then you have humans fighting, and there's hand-to-hand, there's swordplay, there's weaponry. There's a lot of different types of fighting. So I think that overwhelms people. And so they get scared and they gloss over it. And that is when I tell them, stop it. There is no reason to get scared is number one. It's just a book. It's not going to bite. I promise. Number two, there are things to research in fighting. And Eve, let's say you don't want your character to have instant fighting skills, short on time, and you only have a novella. You're short on space. There is very strict word count. You can always just have it discussed very briefly that they learned fighting. There is no excuse for instant fighting. You don't just, tap someone on the forehead. Hey, you can fight now. All these movements, all these maneuvers, your muscles are strengthened. Your mind is strengthened to be able to anticipate your opponent. Like, it's just, it comes from fear and wanting things to go faster and not believing you're capable of improving your prose. And I think that's inexcusable because everyone is capable of improving their prose.
Yes, I agree with that. And I say, dude, stop it. Just stop using the instant fighting skills. You can tell I really like to defend this one. Anyway,
I feel like I'm torturing you.
you're not. This is my own fault. So yeah. Okay, Books by Tiffany is here, so we're gonna say hi to Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Okay, so another thing about instant fighting skills, it is a common, almost expected trope in some particular genres, especially like anime and manga, to a certain extent, and because it really takes very little time to become a fighter in those particular animes, and so. What would your response be to that? Because I mean, it is kind of expected in some ways.
I am a huge anime fan. For anyone who hasn't heard me speak or sees me online, I love anime. And that is actually Dragon Ball Z. They have a couple of roadways where they have the time chamber that Mr. Popo guards. And they go in there, and what takes a year in our time is like 10 years. I don't remember the exact math. Please don't ask me to do math. I don't remember that. But they are actually learning fighting for a very, very long time. It just seems like that on our plane of existence. They go to a different temporal universe and they spend all of that time. But it is anime. They don't have a lot of time. That's one of the things with the time constraints. So they don't have instant fighting skills. The only thing that makes it instinctual, like because of the Saiyan race, but again, you have a character like Gohan, who's only half Saiyan. He doesn't have those instincts right away. His father does have to teach him, and they spend a lot of the beginning of Dragon Ball where he knows nothing about fighting. And then Goku is gone away, Piccolo goes and trains him. So they actually show a lot of training in there. And the only time they use that shortcut is when they need to go into the hyperbolic time chamber. Another anime that is amazing with the mix of instinct and instant and learning is Sailor Moon, which, and a lot of people will be like, Sailor Moon, there's fighting in that? Because I know the assumption about Sailor Moon, it's all about girls transforming in pretty outfits. There are certain characters who are reincarnated. So once they have that, something's become instinctual, but you watch the bulk of the main character, Usagi, have to be yelled at by her little black cat what to do. Every incantation, every weapon, everything needs to be explained to her because she knows absolutely nothing. So I would say that anime likes to make you think it has instant fighting skills. And I'm sure some of them do, but most of them have a lot of training. You just don't see it, which again, that's a time reason. I don't think authors should take that route at all.
Okay, and Joe says it's time for a montage. Yes, montages and instant fighting skills. Yes. Okay, so okay, as you said, this is kind of a follow up to that. It plays into genre expectations and so actually plays into some tropes too, like the Chosen One. They tend to do that a lot with the Chosen One, not necessarily instant fighting skills, but very short time fighting skills, which doesn't always work well. Um, I don't know much about lit RPG, but I think they do it a little bit in that as well, for some of the gaming and the power up
Yeah,
sort
I
of
don't
things.
read a lot of those, so that I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So, what about some of those genre expectations and tropes that actually sort of lean into this?
Okay, so it's very amusing. I hate the Chosen One trope, but I use it. I didn't realize I was using it when I was writing the Paranormal Detective series, but it turns out, oh, this was a Chosen One trope. I didn't find this out until book 8. But Angelica, we watch her during various times go through different training. She discusses the training she had with her father that starts, way before the actual series starts, like 200 years before. So, we're not going that far back. But sometimes it might seem instant. But she's a vampire. Her muscles are better. Her body's better. She can pick up things quicker, and she trains hard all the time, including when she goes from half vampire to vampire, when other things happen and she doesn't have strength. So I think in urban fantasy and Chosen Ones, that's very expected. It's one of the reasons I hated the main character in She Who Shall Not Be Named series. Like, what do you mean you're just sitting there and you know everything and you're getting everything on the first try when you have been shown to not have that intelligence? My Magic series, the Coven series, when I wrote The Coven Princess, one of the things I gave to Harley, and I realized I had to undo it a little bit. When I was in school, I would read the instructions, and I would usually be able to get whatever was on the paper in front of me and grasp it very, very quickly without a lot of practice. And I realized that I couldn't do that for her with her magic. Some of it was ingrained in her mind, but the rest of it, she had to work just as hard as the other students. And initially, I did not have that. And I realized, oh, that sounds like instant fighting. No, I can't do that. I can't make her just, oh, she automatically knows all of this because she's the chosen main character. Because she eventually becomes a chosen one trope too later on. I didn't know that when I was writing it.
Yeah, well, personally, I don't think the chosen one trope isn't necessarily a bad trope. It's the way it's done. A lot of times it makes it a bad trope. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Okay, so superheroes also lean into this particular instant fighting skill trope a lot as well. And there's one particular one that the kind of like the trial by fire, you either learn or you die. So how would you approach that particular?
That's one of the reasons that, and I know some people are going to be, no one's going to be shocked and some people are going to hate it. I dislike Superman because it seems like he doesn't have to try very much. If there's no kryptonite, if there's no very particular villain, he doesn't have to try. It's instant. His powers is everything. And it's like, you are boring me. Same with Starfire from the Teen Titans. I love her as a character. Her powers bore me viciously. I like characters like Batman and all of his Robins and underlings because he puts them through that trial by fire, learn or die. And I'm a big fan of that, actually. Most of my characters go through, if you cannot do this, if you cannot get enough strength to defend yourself, if you don't know how to work these weapons, you don't know how to work this magic to fight, you're going to die. And so are probably a lot of other people. So I absolutely love it. And I think that it can show you who a character is. Are they going to cry? Are they going to panic? Are they going to buckle down? And are they going to have their blood, sweat, and tears put into this so they can follow their plot? And yeah, you get to delve into who the character is more when you give them a trial by fire. And I find it a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't like Superman either. I mean, no offense to Superman, he's a good character and everything, but yeah, he's boring as a superhero. There are a lot more
Very
interesting. Okay, so another superhero trope, and this has been used in the X-Men a little bit, is the mimic powers, where a character can either absorb someone's powers or they suddenly get the skills by some voodoo woohoo superhero thing. So, how would you respond to that? Do you think that's a good idea on how to get instant fighting skills?
I think it depends on what the fighting skills are. Are they physical fighting skills or magical? I think for magic, that's probably a good way to do it because there's still a catalyst into what, and someone still had to learn it first. Like it's not their powers. They took them, they stole them somehow. So I think stolen powers can work. But when it comes to physical fighting, I don't think that's possible because again, physical fighting, it takes muscles, definition, training, and also, yeah, natural instinct, and you have to have the brain power to it. I don't think you can just automatically take. I don't think that works that way at all. You mentioned Pokemon earlier. There is Mimikyu, who is a mimic Pokemon, and it actually does have a weakness. After it mimics the other Pokemon, it gets sad. It doesn't like that it doesn't have its own everything, and you see its face. Same with Ditto. Ditto has, depending on the trainer, cannot take on that Pokemon for very long or has a flaw in it. They always give Ditto some sort of flaw until the trainer levels up. So the trainer and the Pokemon still have to level up just to use those borrowed powers. But that's why a lot of people love Ditto, and that's why I dislike Ditto. And I can't believe I'm saying that. There's gonna be so many anime fans who are mad at me today. So many anime and superhero fans who are mad at me. But yeah, magic can kind of work. But I also think it's great if you give it some sort of caveat, like they use it for too long because they didn't earn it, it drains their energy and they collapse or they die. Like something like that. You can take that and give it a negative so that it still shows, yeah, instant fighting skills are not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Rogue is the one I was thinking of with the X-Men, and of course, she can't really touch people because of her powers. So that is her her flaw in the power. So
Well, not in the TV show, but in the comic books. seance in the he gets the powers and abilities of ghosts that he calls upon to possess him. So I think that's also something that can work a little bit because that's possession. It's not his powers. It's the ghost powers. Someone already had to learn those. And
Okay, so that's actually one of the points I have later. So why don't we just move into possession then? Skills acquired by being possessed by ghosts or demons. So how viable do you think that is?
For ghosts, I think that it can definitely hurt whoever they're possessing, but they can still have those for a time. So again, the ghosts did earn those abilities. So it's earned, but just used through a medium because they can't touch. Now for demons, I like how Supernatural did it, where once the demon's out of the human, some of them go insane, some of them still hear the demon in their head. Like there's always a price if a demon possessed you and then used your body to do all of that magic. In the end of the first season, Meg, while she's being possessed, gets thrown out a window like 3 stories down. And later on, you do find out that that body was broken. And the only thing keeping it alive eventually was the demon. Like they killed her body. So again, if you're going through that, there's got to be a downside to give them that skill. As long as there is a downside and a negative, I think that you can use that very creatively.
Okay, so another common usage of the instant fighting skills is the genius trope or the enhanced genetic sort of genius where they can just read a book and they have instant fighting skills. Isn't that lovely?
The Flash does that. Barry Allen did learn some things, and Kid Flash, I believe it's Bart Allen with the Titans. I haven't read that comic book in so long.
Yeah, no, there's several Kid Flashes, so
Yeah.
Bart Allen was one of them. Yes.
I don't think it was Wally. I don't think it was Wally. I'm pretty sure it was Bart, because I like Wally too. But Bart's an adorable character, and he went through and he used the super speed for the retention, and he learned how to harness his powers better. It's like he did learn it mentally. Like that's not a shortcut. But how did his body manage to do it? He didn't train himself. Like that bothers me. So that's why I try to avoid the genius trope. Like you can learn something from a book. I can learn almost anything from watching something or reading something. Doesn't mean I can do it in application. So I think that a lot of people just, of course, want to suspend your belief. But when you're writing, you really do have to sit there because a lot of readers now are very, very critical about things like that. So as the author, you have to sit there and be like, how believable is this? They can just do something immediately. Like this isn't knitting. This is something very physical.
So what if you're adding like the genetically enhanced so that they are more physically able to do something or the intuit? Do you think that makes a difference?
It does make a difference. Like you still have to practice, of course. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to have balance and everything, but like that's with my vampires. Well, I'll use Angelica Cross again because I absolutely love her. She always relied too heavily on those vampire genetics and her vampire blood and the strength. She worked very, very hard. She was constantly training. She was training other people, learning new weapons, trying to make sure she can outsmart her opponent. Like she constantly trained, but you don't find out until book 8 how heavily she relied on those powers, especially her powers of speed, where she was able to move faster. She hated turning into a bat, but she would have relied on that too. Her senses, being able to stay up all night and having that automatic rest so her body never got exhausted, not needing to eat, drink anything but blood, not needing to use the restroom. She didn't get her period, none of that. She never had any of it. And she didn't realize how much she relied on those vampire genetics until it was too late. So I think that, again, if you're writing that, it's a great way to have characters be able to do more and learn faster. But you also have to have that downside. They're relying so much on their genetics. What if they didn't have those? And I think that's something that everyone needs to kind of, when they're writing, just look at and be like, okay, what happens here? What happens if you take that away from them? You have anything that's instant, anything that seems too good to be true needs a downside. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like there's a payoff. It almost feels like there's another shoe waiting to drop.
Yeah. Do you think that not having a downside kind of pushes it over into the Mary Sue, Marty Stew, whatever the male equivalent of that is, to territory?
Yes, yes, it does. While Mary Sue territory can also come from personality, it can definitely come from skills as well. Because, okay, you learned everything in a second, you're perfect. Now what? How are you fighting that? You're always perfect. So, how are you not going in every battle knowing that you're always going to win? That's another thing that I make sure to write is my characters are always terrified they're not going to win. They don't think they can always win, and they need to keep working, keep finding new things, and keep reading texts to see if there's weaknesses. So yeah, you go into that Mary Sue territory of always perfect, but in this case it's not emotional, it's with the fighting skills, and it gets boring. Readers want to see character development, and if a character is a fighter, watching them train helps that development a lot.
Of course, you could do the opposite with that particular overconfidence, like going in thinking you're always going to win and then you lose. So,
Right, and usually that doesn't happen because, of course, they have those
yeah.
instant skills, they're always gonna be better than
Mm.
the opponent. But, yes, that's a great way to start knocking down that type of character, get readers invested into how they pick themselves back up.
Okay, so another thing people like about this particular trope is that it gives a quick edge to fighting a better opponent, like we were just discussing. So, how would you do it without using the instant fighting skills to give someone an edge against a better opponent?
It depends on why they're better. Uh Usually, I would actually go for an emotional boost because there's medical studies actually done that if you have an emotional boost, that adrenaline running through your veins, that's how, mothers lift cars up to get their babies out underneath them. And then later on, after the adrenaline's gone, you find out they've torn their muscles, like they need hospitalization. But I think that an emotional edge helps if they need that extra boost. And I admit that I use that a lot because I feel like most human beings are governed by their emotions. We pretend we're not. Most of us are governed by those emotions, especially if it's love or hate, one of those two extremes. So in the Coven Princess, the first Coven series book, Harley faces an opponent who's much stronger than her. She has amazing latent powers that she still has to learn how to use, but she can't use them. They're not controlled. So it was her emotions that brought out that little bit of extra power that everyone told her was in there, but she couldn't utilize. And she needed to immediately. And she thought someone close to her died. So that is what brought out those powers. And they didn't stay. She still had to relearn how to use them, how to control everything later. So it actually kind of made things worse, even though it beat that villain. So again, a downside to getting that, to making that happen. Always a downside.
Okay, so another reason people use the instant fighting skills because they want their character to be the underdog, this person that doesn't have the skill but has to fight the evil or whatever. So they use the instant fighting skills so they can actually win because everybody loves an underdog who wins. So how would you handle that better?
And again, I'm going to go for a movie, Rocky. We discussed that a couple weeks ago on This Week in Indies. Rocky. Look at that underdog. Look at why you're rooting for him. No one would be rooting for him if he all of a sudden, oh yeah, man, I can box. I've been hiding this whole time. I mean, that would have cut out half the movie. That's not the point. So I think that when you have an underdog character, you can either give that emotion boost, like I said, that then will come back and bite them in the ass after the adrenaline's gone, or you just don't do it. Like Dragon Ball Z also does this. They have them turn Super Saiyan, usually with their emotions, but they have to log a certain amount of battle time too. And Vegeta and Gohan are also two of those characters. Their first Super Saiyan 2 appearances were both born of emotion. And then they went and started training to be able to do it at will. But yeah, if you have a character in an underdog situation, they have to pull themselves up out of it. Instant fighting is not going to keep them as the underdog. Doesn't work that way.
Okay, actually, Rocky is a good example of that because in the end, Rocky didn't win.
Right.
People still loved him. Okay, so we had another comment here from Joe, especially when they mess up the training early on, gives them the novice feel. So yeah, training actually can help build character development.
In Stakeout, the first Paranormal Detectives book, Angelica is training Danny because he's been out of commission for a couple of years. But he did have a lot of previous fighting skills, martial arts skills. He knew weapons, especially blades, daggers, swords. And he's failing his training. He's failing his training viciously. And she's telling him, look at why you're not moving like this. Look at how you screwed this up. And I think that was very important for his growth to show that, yeah, no, he may have been a cop for many years. He may have trained himself. He may have been decorated, but he was still going to screw up and needed more training.
Yeah. Okay. So just saying hi to Sean here. Hello, Sean. Okay. So now this one happens quite a bit in a lot of fiction and movies and things. It's when instant fighting skills are either part of a program or part of magic. And The Matrix is a good example of this. You know, everything got downloaded into Neo's brain, and suddenly he had kung fu. It was fun in the movie, but realistic, maybe not so much. And you also have some things like the upgrade artifact, where your magical sword suddenly grants you all sorts of amazing powers, which usually is ridiculous, but can be fun. Um, and even a show like One Piece, you've got the magic fruit. I forget what the magic fruit is called.
Been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the show. I mean, although that show does do it a little bit, do it pretty good, because I mean, they do have some training. I mean,
Yeah, I read the manga when it was originally being printed in Shonen Jump, and they do a fairly decent job.
yeah.
They have a couple bones thrown.
So, what do you think about that particular scenario? Is that viable?
Well, the thing for the being downloaded into Neo's brain, here's why it's bullshit, because he can still know. Again, I addressed this earlier. He can know it. He can know all of it. That doesn't mean he can put it into practice with his body for very long, because he never trained for it. Like I said, physical skills require those muscles to be worked. It's the same with dancing. You never see a movie about a dancer who all of a sudden she just goes up and does Swan Lake. It's not possible. But yet they do it with fighting a lot, and it's so bad. But like for a weapon, I think it's okay to have a stronger weapon because the person using it still needs to know how to use it. In Paranormal Detectives Book 8, Angelica's known for preferring swords and knives to guns. She likes getting up close and personal when drawing blood. But no matter how good she is, if she doesn't have this very particular sword, she's not going to be able to kill the enemy in the last book. And only certain people can use it. And that's when the chosen one trope and stuff comes in. But if she didn't know how to use a sword, she would have been screwed. Doesn't matter if she's the chosen one. She still needed to know how to use that artifact. So I think it's okay, like if they find magic bullets or whatever, as long as they can use that gun and already trained for it, that's a pretty good shortcut, actually.
Yeah, it is harder to use a sword than most people think. And I think that might be part of the problem with some of these because they think, well, you just pick up the sword and you wave it around, and no.
And
I've
most people
taken
don't.
I've taken fencing lessons, so
Right, there's fencing swords, there's
yeah.
katanas, there's Angelica's preferred sword is a falchion, there's broadswords. There are so many different swords. They have to be wielded differently, different weights, different handle materials as well, different hilts. Like there's so many things that you need to learn. And that's another reason why I needed Angelica to be as old as she was, because I needed her to have time to learn all of these weapons, to get all of the knowledge that she had. She went to college 6 times in 200 years. Like it wouldn't have worked. Her character would not have worked if she was young.
Yeah. And every sword has a different balance to it as well. So you have to learn the balance of the sword in order to wield it as well. And most people don't understand that.
That's one of the things that she relied on her vampire genes for. That and always liking to fight in heels. Because it always pissed me off when they have mortal women fighting in corsets, leather pants, heels. Like, you don't fight in that stuff. You just don't. That's not possible. And she says it too. She's like, I'm a vampire. I'm fine with this. This is not hurting my body. This is not screwing with my balance. But that doesn't work for a human. And I make sure that that's stated.
Okay, so And Joe says it worked pretty well in Edge of Tomorrow too, only Tom Cruise has to die to learn something new. Well, there's the downside.
That's a downside. It's pretty
Okay,
big.
yeah, there's no putting baby in the corner. Not sure why he's referencing Dirty Dancing there, but
Can I ask? Did we bring that up? Oh, the dancing. I guess.
oh, yeah.
In Dirty Dancing, I guess she can automatically dance.
Well, no, well, yeah. I mean, they might have skirted over it a little bit, but I mean, she did learn in the
Yeah, I thought he
movie.
had to teach her.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they may have sped it up a little bit for time,
Yeah, of
probably,
course.
because she probably never learned that fast. But anyway, I mean, and who knows? Maybe she had dance lessons as a kid.
I mean, I have known people who dance and like you'll see idols and stuff who are dancing. Some of them played sports before. Like there were a couple former baseball players in school and then they started. So their muscles are already built for sports. So if she had any sort of anything in childhood, like apparently she was walking around delivering watermelons, so she had to have some muscle definition, which does speed that up a little bit.
And that particular style of dancing they were learning wasn't ballet. So
Right.
it's a lot. I'm not going to say it's easier because I mean any dancing is going to be tough to learn, but it's probably more along the lines of learning how to ballroom dance as
Yes.
opposed to learning ballet.
Yes, and you can definitely learn to ballroom dance a lot quicker than some other technical, like contemporary, lyrical. Those take more time.
Okay, so instant fighting skills, it can also be used as foreshadowing for a character that maybe they're not quite who they seem as they are. Like, are they the chosen one? Are they a secret villain? Or as a misdirect as well. So, what do you think about using them in that particular way?
If it's a secret villain, I think you can use it that way because once you find out it's the villain, that story has changed and they probably did learn it somewhere. But if you're going to use instant fighting skills or fighting skills that are too good to be true as a red herring, sort of, I think that's fine as long as your end result shows no, they did not have those instant fighting skills. That was just a lie. So again, it all goes back to you can't use instant fighting. They're not actually existing in a good, plausible story.
Okay, you can also use them, as you said, to show that the character is lying. And also, to show that the character has some kind of like they're an immortal, like you do with Angelica. It's like so they can be you think they're one thing, but when they show their fighting skills, they reveal they're something else. So what about that particular way to use it?
That still doesn't mean it's instant, though. It's only instant on the page. If you don't have your character's backstory, then you really don't know where they got those skills, if they were instant or not. It's only instant to the knowledge that's on the page. It's when you delve into the backstory and decide, okay, how did they get them? Which, again, in Never Again, who that's a spinoff of Paranormal Detective series, Sean makes people realize that he is not human while he's surviving things in war that other people would have died from. And the reader knows that. But from the other character's POV, it's like, how'd you get these skills all of a sudden? How do you have these survival skills? And it's like, I was born with some of them because there's only one way to kill a siren in my world. And the other one is I've had 400 years to learn them. Which you do get that on the page, but to the other characters, it seems instant. So I think that there's a difference between seeming instant and actually being instant. And that all goes into how well an author creates their backstory.
So how would you use this seeming instant thing with the backstory? And then another thing is that, say, a farmer character turns out to be a soldier, sort of a thing as well. Like there's a backstory behind that. But how would you use these seemingly instant fighting skills well enough that you don't piss the reader off by when the reader thinks, well, they are instant fighting skills?
Probably starting them out in an emergency would be the first thing. There's actually going to be, I know Joe is watching, so the Paige Papillon series, you do get a little bit of Vera Paige's mentor, that she did have a history. But you are eventually going to see those skills. And after in book 3, she talks about a lot of the pain that she has. She has chronic pain issues from pushing her body too much in her training. So she kind of seems very weak right now. So that's one way I'm going to do it. In an emergency, those skills are going to come to the forefront, even if they hurt her. And I think the tiniest bit of foreshadowing has made her seem weak. And the readers might go into that being like, well, how is she still fighting? You had her taking medicine and putting lotions on and like crying in her bathroom at one point. And it's going to kind of show Paige does not know the extent of everything. Like she thinks she knows. She does not know. And there's another character, Vera's husband, Jonathan, who is going to reveal something that seems very instant as well, which he actually does technically have an instant skill, but it's not for fighting. He was born with something, which I do have a backstory to explain and excuse away. But I think at first for him, with this little instant thing that he's got, some readers might be like, no, you're just using, please excuse my pronunciation, a deus ex machina. They're going to think that I'm using that. I am not. I promise you I am not. There's been more planning into this man than you have any idea. But emergency situations are always good for bringing out things people have hidden or lied about and making them seem instant.
And that is one thing you want to avoid when you're using, if you're using, which I still say you shouldn't use this.
No.
But the deus ex machina, I can't pronounce that one either. So
close.
Yeah, so you definitely should avoid that at all costs, because that's just that's a reader killer, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and Sean has given us a new story idea, The Secret Chosen Villain. And Joe has a question. What do you think about a character finding their instinctual inner strength and just out of the blue demonstrating it? Is that a property of this trope too?
I think it depends on the strength. Like there are a lot of people in reality who, again, face an emergency situation. They may throw the first punch of their life and they're going to knock someone out harder than they think, because we all do have a bit more strength than we realize, than our minds let us do. So I think it depends. If it's just strength, like then you can think back. Okay, how many times have I picked things up? Like let's look at a young mother who has like two small children, let's say a baby and a toddler. How many babies are they picking up, holding in their arms? Heavy things, carrying a bunch of bags. There's more strength than people realize. So if it's just a brief burst of strength, I think that's fine. And then maybe if they want to then hone and learn and realize how they can make that better, because an initial instinct to, self-defense, like I said, you're just going to randomly, someone comes up behind you, you're just going to bam for the first time, that happens. Again, that's an emergency situation. And I think that's okay as long as the character has a repercussion. Again, pain usually, or then realize it's okay, I can do this. Let's go work on it now.
Yeah, this particular thing comes up sometimes in superheroes, where you have a new power manifest itself during a battle or a fight scene or whatever. And I think in that instance, if it's done properly, I think it's okay, because if you've already kind of set the scene or set the thing that these powers are developing still, then that's okay. It's happened sometimes in Pokemon when they're in the middle of a battle and
Yes.
or they evolve. I don't know how many times Ash's Pokemons have evolved in the middle of a battle, but that's pretty.
Yes, except for Pikachu, who's told him,
Yeah.
I would not want to evolve, which I think is adorable. But Raven from the Teen Titans, the comic books, I know the TV show, the original cartoon had it a little bit, but of course there's always was time to develop all of it. But it shows she's born with powers because she's half demon. And she trains very, very hard, because if she doesn't train, she's literally going to rip open a hole into another dimension and let in literal Satan, who is her father. So, and she has that burst of things that she can learn and do, because she only had a certain number of witches on Azeroth to train her. And then everything else came after she joined the Titans. And I realized my emotions are not a weakness. I'm discovering that my emotions make me stronger. So those seem instinctual and instant. They're always just buried. And then you realize in her backstory where she had a well to reach into.
Okay, so and what do we think about bullshit training leading to all of a sudden someone who can fight like a champ? Uh, uh yeah, him Daniel LaRusso. I believe that's Karate Kid, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've watched that. Uh, but yeah, that's the montage syndrome.
Yeah. Although sometimes it really is just bullshit training because the
Mhm.
person writing it does not know how to write actual training. And I
Yeah,
think that's where I would
that's
send
the
people
kung
back to
fu.
Dragon Yeah. That's
Kung
where I would
fu.
send people back to Dragon Ball Z,
Mm.
where Goku was training Gohan, but no one ever really trained Goku. He sort of learned things on the go. And you watch that in the original Dragon Ball when he's a little kid. Like he's just struggling through life. He has this massive strength and literally no way to learn how to use it that he was born with. So then you see Gohan, who was originally Goku was trying to teach him. He taught him horribly. And then Piccolo came and actually taught him properly. So you see that bullshit training didn't work. When you have that bullshit training, I think it usually just comes from a creator not knowing how to write real training. And so when I see that, it pisses me off. Like, what do you mean you just sat there and learned for like, some of them will give a timeline for like just a few weeks. It's like, no, that's a suspension of disbelief even I can't manage.
Yeah, that is not good. It's just because that will come back and bite you in the ass if you're an author, because anyone who's an expert in a martial art and happens to read that book, they'll call you out on it. It's
Uh,
like all the history fans. It's like we research our history because we know what will happen if we don't.
yes, and I did karate when I was younger, so I know a little bit, and I did self defense, and I did like basic street fight either watching. I did not participate, but like I know. So when I was crafting Angelica, I knew I needed to have her again take a very long time to learn because I know how long this stuff takes to learn. I know how hard it is to get your mind and your body aligned with all of that stuff. It's not the bullshit training stuff. Yeah, it bothers me when they speed it up.
Yeah, you can't wax on, wax off, and all of a sudden beat a kid who's been doing real karate since he was 5. Come on. Yeah,
This is actually kind of like that underdog thing that you mentioned earlier, Anita,
yeah.
because they want this underdog to win. It's like, no, it doesn't make you like them.
Okay, it's part of my dissertation on why Daniel LaRusso is the real villain of the Karate Kid franchise, and he's not exactly wrong in that.
No, he's not.
Okay, so okay, so now it can also be used as a surprise twist. I think we discussed this a little bit. It's like, oh look, the new guy actually has skills. Like everyone thinks the guy's bad, but then oh wait, he does have skills. So what do you think about using this? What would you need to make that a viable thing?
I think you would kind of need it. Like, okay, I've had hidden monsters in mine where you think they're human at first, and then once it's revealed they're not human anymore, it's okay. Here's a little bit of the backstory that can dribble out now without seeming like an info dump. Because also you can't give an info dump on all of these characters right away either. So some of them are just going to seem like regular Joes until they have that chance. And I think that a writer who is really good at characterization can really shock their readers. When the demure guy, Maggie Alabaster, who is one of my clients, she's an author, she is incredible. She has a character, it was just released, called Heartstopping, and one of the characters is this glasses wearing, soft spoken, shy, adorable guy. Like he's my favorite character out of the series. And then you find out, oh wait, he is a genius hacker, and he just got the heroes into one of the villains' databases. And I think that's a mental version of the instant fighting skills, but in the way you're talking about it. No, this was not instant. Yes, his brain was drawn and geared towards hacking numbers technology, but he still spent years and years and years figuring it out. But she does that really well, where you just think that he's going to be like the cute guy who can't help the team at all. And then it turns out he's a pivotal member of that team and they can't do anything without his mental fighting skills.
Okay, Sean has a good point here. Is that you need to drop hints if you're going to do that, which is a good point.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, Little foreshadowing never hurts on that one. So another way that you can use instant fighting skills is they can be used for comedic effect, where your character is the lucky idiot who actually does, or the weird explanation of why he has these instant fighting skills. So what do you think? Do you think that's viable?
Well, the one that gets it by luck, it's not skill. That's the thing. It's instant fighting, but it's not instant fighting skills. You got to cut that word off. So it doesn't count when you're always winning by luck. It just doesn't count. There is no skill there. That's another thing that anime has done. Yu-Gi-Oh! Joey Wheeler, he won by luck. He won by the heart of the cards every time. And everyone, when I was younger and going to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments, they hated that Kaiba was my favorite character. Like, but he's so mean to Joey. I'm like, Joey doesn't deserve anything he's won. He has no skills. Eventually, he does develop more skills, but it's like anytime he won, it was heart of the cards and my friends, and it just so happens to be right there. It's like, okay, you played a shit game. Why are you winning? So it's not skills, it's luck. So you cut the skills off. So that part doesn't count. Now, if the way they got the ability is for a comedic effect, let's bring in Joe with the Karate Kid. Isn't that considered a comedy?
Oh, it could be.
I think it's considered a comedy. I don't know. I found it fairly comedic in different ways, but again, that's people aren't going to really like it that much, but comedy can get away with a lot of ridiculous shit. So if you're writing a comedy, you can suspend the disbelief. Are people going to like it? Probably not, but you can do it. I just don't recommend it because it doesn't, oh yeah, I learned these skills because the squirrels kept attacking me in my backyard as a kid. Like, this whatever random thing. It does show your creativity because you're still giving them a reason. It's not instant, but it's a bullshit reason. But again, comedy, you can bullshit in comedy.
I don't know. Maybe those squirrels downloaded the kung fu from the Matrix. Who knows?
God. I'm gonna have to have an evil squirrel in one of my books. I already made a joke in one of mine that an evil squirrel plushie. But I think I may actually have to do something now. I'm gonna have to do some horror comedy here.
Oh, yeah. Don't go the evil animal route. I'm just saying.
I love the evil chicken. I ordered a mug, by the way. I can't wait for it to show up.
Okay, so what about when the power level actually negates the skills, and that becomes part of this instant fighting abilities?
It can work in magic because there's still training to be done to meet up with it, either to make one or the other to get them to match. I don't know if it works very well with the fighting skills physical. I think that usually means your character is going to die. Honestly, the power is going to burn them up. It's going to burn their muscles out. It's going to hurt them. They don't have the reflexes to keep up in a fight. But for magic, it can work because, again, there's still going to be some learning that can come. Or the magic will burn them out from the inside, like a lot of the demons do in Supernatural. I mean, it depends on what sort of story you're writing and how you want to get the character out of it and how information is relayed. Like for Harley, it's practical application in a controlled environment at her school. But then the more she learns, she's kind of having to teach herself because she's graduated. There's so much more magic that doesn't get taught. So that was something that I had to do. She has this amazing power buried deep in a well inside her. How is she going to keep learning to harness that? And she keeps learning. So again, I think it's magical inner power still isn't instant. They still have to learn to work up to use it or they're going to die. Physical, yeah, they're just going to die.
Yeah, I think with Juggernaut has a bit of that. Like he's so physically powered, he can pretty much overpower everything. But I think it's a limited, if I'm remembering right, because it's been a while since I've read the X-Men comics. I think it's like a limited amount because he can't use it for long without becoming exhausted.
Right, having a downside like that always helps. If you're going to give someone something that is so incredible, they have to have a bad side to it and a side effect they have to deal with. And I think as long as you're adding in a negative, it makes the instant fighting skills not seem so serendipitous and brilliant and oh my god, this is the only way. Like no, they're going to suffer. They've got them, but now they get to suffer for them.
Okay, so Another instant fighting skill usage is usually when you're dealing with something like virtual reality, or like a lit RPG where you're in the game fiction and you suddenly have the fighting skills of whatever avatar or whatnot that you are in the game. So what about that? Do you think that's a viable, realistic way to use it?
I think it goes along with the ghost possession. So it's kind of like digital ghost possession. So again, you're just borrowing those powers. Someone still had to learn them. They're only instant for you for the time you have them. But like if anyone has ever played a fighting video game, because I do like fighting games, anyone's played a fighting video game, you get that controller in your hand, your hands are on the keyboard, and you're just flailing around. You have, even if you've watched a tutorial, doesn't matter. Your hands are flailing around, you're pressing the buttons, you don't know what's going on. But eventually you do acclimate. And you can acclimate a bit quicker because, again, they're not your powers. You're just virtually using them. So it's the same as the ghost possession, where someone else did earn those abilities. You're just trying to figure out how to work with them. And yes, you might get hurt. Or the remote's going to get hurt if you throw it, one or the other.
Yeah, a lot of those in-game fictions, I think, too, the people that get sucked into the game or whatnot are already gamers.
Yeah.
So they probably already have skills to.
Yep. They probably know the character's lore, all of the different things that they need. Yeah. They probably watch the gameplay online, spend a lot of time on Twitch. So yeah, it's not going to be instant. Even though they've never actually done the physical thing, they've still watched enough of it where in a virtual way or in a possession way, they can kind of have their brain, the brain training they had, work on it. Now, if it's going to hurt them physically, that depends on the world. That all depends on world building, backstory stuff.
Okay, so another variant on the instant fighting skills is when you have a fighter who's also a telepath who can read the mind. So they're actually anticipating all their opponent's moves. Do you think that's viable?
I have one of those, and he sometimes can have it. Sometimes it won't always hit him, but he still also has the skills to duck. I mean, I could know a punch is coming for me right now. It doesn't mean I'd be fast enough to duck. I might know it's coming. I could still be slow as hell. So again, you still have to have training. Like you might know. The way that could work is if the telepath is sitting off to the side, not doing the fighting, and then if they can speak telepathically to another character, then tell the hero, who again also has to have training, duck, go, and that's great teamwork. But if you just have the telepathic skills, but you're not trained, you're screwed. You're still going to get pummeled. You're not going to be fast. You're not going to be strong. Even if you manage to dodge a few hits, you're dead. So again, it wouldn't work.
Okay, so then the last point I have is it's that people use this instant fighting skills, or they lean into it, is when you've got the person who's kind of like the overtop crazy, the berserker sort of madness, then they just kind of just go all nuts on their opponent. Personally, I don't like this one, but what do you think? Do you think that one can work?
So you were talking about Bruce Banner and the Hulk, clearly. Just to name the most famous one. I don't like it, again, unless there's the downside where if they can do that and they can win, then they have to be hurt or something afterwards. There has to be a recovery time. They have to, pass out. Beast Boy from the Teen Titans, his power is shape-shifting, but he can only shape-shift into animals that either did exist or do exist. Like he can shape-shift into dinosaurs sometimes. But there have been a couple times within the comic book where it took so much out of him, he just faints after the fight, or he needs to refuel or something. So if there's something like you transform and you go, the berserker way, once you're out of it, again, have that consequence. I don't particularly like it though, because it just, again, it seems like very lazy writing. Oh, Hulk get mad, Hulk smash. Okay, boring. What else can you do? What other reasonings do you have aside from your anger issues? I mean, therapy helps. Therapy is better than punching somebody. It's just the Hulk has always bothered me on a very toxic level.
Yeah, there's some issues about the Hulk, although I do kind of like the way they handled it in the MCU, the Marvel Universe, because in the later ones anyway.
Yeah, I've actually only seen a couple of the early ones. I have not.
Yeah, the Mark Ruffalo era did it better than some of the earlier movies. And I do, if you've ever watched the old TV show, the Incredible Hulk TV show, that one's interesting because they delve into the psychology of the double personality and him, and the trouble of having this manifestation. So that was an interesting take
Yeah,
on it
he
as
gave it
well.
a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde sort of
Mhm.
thing, where you do see the toll that it's taking a little bit. But a lot of times, if you see someone making that berserker sort of, it's just they just go back and they're la di da afterwards. And it's like, no, it's your anger fuels you, your rage fuels you, but what else? That's like when Harley taps into her powers. When I made her tap into those, she knew that she couldn't control them after, and there was a lot going on, and it was not anger, it was grief. And I think that that makes it a bit different. If you have a character who's controlled by their anger to that point, I think it makes them a very unlikable character.
Yeah, it does. Anger's kind of a weird sort of a way to do it, I think, because you can go both ways with it. Like you can make because the character can go over the top very quickly and become an unlikable character. But if you're going to turn him into a villain, then that might be a good way to go. Because I mean, if he keeps getting angry and angry and angry, and then suddenly that anger spills out, oh, he's the new villain.
Right, that can work, and then that's also a plot development. That's and you're making it grow on the reader that maybe I shouldn't like this character. Like this is too much now. And I do almost do that a couple times with Angelica in book 5. It's not really her anger more than her apathy. Apathy is not something that causes fighting skills, but it does make your thought process while you're fighting very different. And she almost goes villain in that one because of her emotions. So yeah, if you have a little bit of that leading up, that can work. And again, if you give instant fighting skills to a villain for that reason, you're allowed to hate that villain, and the reader's going to dislike them because you didn't even earn your skills. You're just doing that because you're angry.
Hmm. Okay. Okay, so I think we'll wrap the show up here. It was a great debate. I think we can both safely agree we both hate this trope.
I was going to say, it wasn't so much of a debate other than you feeding me. Please tell me why this sucks.
Well, I actually had a very hard time finding good points on this particular trope because usually when I'm doing the points, I do research and you can find a good back and forth, but not with this one. So,
I think it's safe to say to any authors watching, please avoid this. Avoid
yes,
this. To use a cliche, avoid this like the plague.
yeah, we have safely told you why you should not avoid this and what to do instead. So this is an informational debate.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, it was a pleasure chatting with you. It was a pleasure debating you. And so that's it for this show. And remember, just remember, guys, it's always time to go indie now.